Good morning, everyone. Our topic for today is realistic story for children in lesson 2. What is realistic story? A realistic story is a story that is convincingly true to life. That is, the places, the people, the action, and motives seem both possible and plausible. It is a story in which everything that happens could happen. So in realistic story, it is meant to be happen or already happened in the past. It is a story which is possible and it's been experienced and not a fantasy created in our mind. Characteristics of realistic stories. Number 1, must contain plots and action. So, in a literary work, film, story, or other narrative, the plot is the sequence of events where each affects the next one through the principle of cause and effect, while the action is the mode fiction writers use to show what is happening at any given moment in the story. Number 2 has unity of plot. Okay, the first essential to creating a good tragedy is that it should maintain unity of plot. This means that the plot must move from beginning to end according to a tightly organized sequence of necessary or probable events. Number 3 has logical development. Of course, logically developed means that the ideas on the story is the way you support these stories and the connections between the logical or it makes the logical sense. Number 4, the story must be true to human nature. Of course, because we are in a realistic story from the word real. So, from the word itself, real, it must be like a true to human nature. Number 5, must have a substantial theme. So the term theme can be defined as the underlying meaning of a story. It is the message the writer is trying to convey through the story. Often the theme of a story is a broad message about life. The theme of a story is important because a story's theme is part of the reason why the author wrote the story. And number 6, the last one, is style must absorb and interest young readers. So the author here must be good in writing. Why? So that the young readers or the readers must be interested and must be absorbed the style. Values of realistic stories. Number 1, children can identify themselves happily and profitably with the hero and or heroine the table. So when the children watch a realistic story, they easily identify themselves happy with those heroes. And number 2, give children an insight into real life situations. It must have a lesson to be learned as applied in real life situation. And number 3, satisfy the need to belong. 4, satisfy the need of love or loved. Number 5, satisfy the need to know. And number 6, satisfy the need to achieve. So in realistic stories, it should be satisfy the need to belong as well as the need to be loved or loved. Satisfy the need to know and satisfy the need to achieve for them to conclude that it is a realistic story. Following are two examples of realistic stories. We have here a story entitled The Little Fisher. There once lived an old man and his wife. Their hut stood in a wild and lonely place. Great hills covered with trees rose behind the little home, and there was a beautiful lake in front. The woodman and his wife were very poor, and they had to work all day. But they were very happy because their little grandson, Sid, stayed with them. Sid was a merry little boy. He had big, bright eyes. He was tall and strong and loved to be outdoors most of the time. He played in the forest, but he loved best the beautiful lake. He would lie on the shore and looked over the water. How he wished he had a boat of his own. Then he would be able to row out on the beautiful lake and catch fish on supper. At night, when he went to bed, he often dreamed he was fishing on the lake. He would find fortune in the lake. One day, the old man broke his arm. He could no longer cut down the big trees in the forest. He could not earn money to buy their food with. He was worried. "Do not worry, Grandpa," said Sid. "When I am big, I will find fortune in the lake. Then we shall no longer be poor. We shall have plenty to eat." That night, Sid went to bed without supper, for there was no food in the hut. When he fell asleep, he had a dream. A lovely lady came and stood beside him. "Why did you have no supper, Sid?" the lady asked. "Because my grandma had nothing to give me," he said. "But some day, when I am big, I shall go fishing in the lake and find a fortune." "Tomorrow you must go fishing in the lake." "But I have no boat. Where can I get a boat?" asked Sid. "Go down to the lake and you can find a boat there," said the lady. When Sid awoke, he did not forget the lady's words. So he went to his grandma, who was sewing a shirt. "Grandma, can I go fishing on the lake today?" asked Sid. The old woman shook her head. "But we have no boat," said she. Sid told her of his dream. His grandma wondered how he could go fishing. She let him go. Sid ran to the lake and found a boat on the shore. He found a fishing rod in the bottom of the boat, and it was ready for use. Sid threw the line into the water. After a few minutes, he pulled his line and he had caught a big fish. Sid shouted with joy at the catch he made. He ran back to his grandma and shouted with joy. "We can have fish for supper, Grandma," Sid shouted. The next day he told his grandma he would go back to the lake again. He looked for his fishing rod, but could not find it. He saw a net lying in a corner of the boat. He picked up the net. "This net might bring me my fortune," said he. He let the net down to the water. In a very short time, his net became heavy. He pulled up his net and he found 5 oysters. He opened them one by one with the knife he found in the boat. In one of the oysters, he found a large and a beautiful pearl. He remembered what his grandmother said, that pearls were worth a great deal of money. He wanted to get some oysters from the lake. They might have more pearls. He ran and shouted with joy. His shouts were heard by his grandpa and grandma. They thought that Sid was in danger. Sid shouted, "Look what did I brought you, Grandma. My dreams come true." He showed the pearls to his grandma and grandpa. "The king will buy these pearls for his crown, and we will have money for the rest of our lives," they said. We have here the second story entitled The Poppy Seed Cakes. Once upon a time, there was a boy named Andrew. His mother and father brought him to the old country when he was a tiny baby. Andrew had an auntie Catherine, and she came from the old country too. She came on a large boat. She brought with her a large bag filled with presents for Andrew. In a huge bag were a fine feather bed and a bright shawl and 5 pounds of poppy seeds. The fine feather bed is made from feathers of the old goose at home. It was to keep Andrew warm when he took a nap. The bright shawl was for his auntie to wear when she went to market. The 5 pounds of poppy seeds were to sprinkle on the little cake which his auntie made every Saturday for him. One lovely Saturday morning, Andrew's auntie took some butter, some sugar, some flour, and some milk and 7 eggs, and she baked some nice little cakes. Then she sprinkled each cake with some of the poppy seeds which she had brought from the old country. While the nice little cakes were baking, she spread out the fine feather on bed on top of the big bed for Andrew to take his nap. Andrew loved to bounce up and down on his fine feather bed. Andrew's auntie took the nice little cakes out of the oven and put them on the table to cool. Then she put on her bright shawl to go to market. Andrew, she said, please watch these cakes while you rest on your fine feather bed. Be sure that the kitten and dog do not go near them. But all Andrew really did was to bounce up and down on the fine feather bed. Andrew's auntie in her bright shawl hurried off to market. But Andrew kept bouncing up in the air for the 9th time. He had a queer noise that sounded like shh at the front door of his house. Oh, what a queer noise! Cried Andrew. He jumped down off to the fine feather bed and opened the front door. There stood a green goose that was very cross and scolding as fast as he could. He was wagging his head and was opening and closing his long red beak. What do you want? Said Andrew. What do you want? What are you scolding about? I want all the goose feather from your fine feather bed, quacked the big green goose. They are mine, they are not yours, said Andrew. My auntie brought them with her from the old country in a huge bag. They are mine, quacked the big green goose. He waddled over the fine feather bed and tugged it with his long red beak. Stop, green goose, said Andrew, and I will give you one of Auntie Catherine's poppy seed cakes. A poppy seed cake? The green goose quacked in delight. I love nice little poppy seed cakes. Give me one and you shall have your feather bed. But one poppy seed cake could not satisfy the greedy goose. Give me another, said the goose. Andrew gave the goose another poppy and cake. Give me another. The green goose hissed and frightened Andrew nearly out of his wits. Andrew gave him another and another until the last poppy seed cake was gone. Just as the poppy and cake disappeared with the green goose, Andrew's auntie appeared at the door. Boo-hoo! Cried Andrew. So the naughty green goose has eaten all the poppy seed cake. What? All my little nice poppy seed cakes? Cried Andrew's auntie. The naughty goose. The greedy goose tugged the fine feather bed again with his long red beak and started to drag it to the door. Andrew's auntie ran after the green goose, and just then there was a dreadful explosion. The greedy goose, who had stuffed himself with poppy seed cakes, had burst, and his feathers flew all over the room. Well, well, said Andrew's auntie as she gathered up the pieces of the big green goose's feathers. We soon shall have to find feather pillows for your fine feather bed. That ends my report. Thank you and God bless.